How's it going, YouTube? For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Zach Calvin. Behind me, I have two of my drift cars. I know it's been like a year since I've published a video, but I'm finally doing something that you guys have been asking me to do for a long time, which is make these cars more competitive. I've built these cars and they've pretty much remained the same for the past 2 or 3 years. Couple reasons for that. One, I'm cheap, and two, it just works. If you want to get into drifting, you don't need to overbuild your first car or your second car even. Have fun with what you got. So let's dive into what these cars are and what the plans are for them. For those of you that have been following my journey long enough, you'll recognize this car behind me. This is what started it all. I bought this car honestly just as a daily driver. For a while I went through kind of like a phase, if you will, of stancing it out. I slammed it to the ground, and I would do some roll racing in Mexico and things like that. But my friends like Taylor Ray, they were already into drifting very competitively, and I wanted to get involved in that. I never did as a kid because I didn't really have the funding to do so. But as I became more mature, I was a little wiser with my finances. Obviously not too wise if I spend my money on drift cars and stuff. But I had the means, if you will, to get into drifting. Primarily because I already had a rear-wheel drive car, and I had the desire to do so. And I had some companies reach out to me, namely Blue 808 reached out to me and said, hey, we used to make angle kits. Didn't really pick up any traction, but people have been reaching out to me because of your Camaro videos that they've seen online. Would you be interested in kind of partnering and really fine tuning the kit? And he had already been in the game for 10 years, let's say, developing stuff for the Camaro chassis. So it seemed like a no-brainer. Now, I've tested some other kits like FDF on the Camaro. I think FDF, Just Engineering, and Blue 808 are the angle kits on the market for this car. And hands down, Blue 808 is night and day difference. I have FDF on the Corvette, which we'll talk about in a moment, but the plans for this car, as it relates to upgrades, I've already got the best when it comes to angle. Where this car has opportunity, one is the weight. It's way too heavy. Two, this still does not have a cage. So that's something that for bigger tracks, and if I ever wanted to compete in this vehicle, I have to cage it. At the top of the list for me is more power. This only makes 500 horsepower, just under 500 horsepower, naturally aspirated. So I need to supercharge it or turbo. If you guys got suggestions, leave them in the comments. I need to shave weight. It weighs like 4,000 pounds with me in it. To put it in perspective, me in the Corvette weighs 2,800 pounds. So to be more competitive in this car, we're gonna need to cut some weight. Now, I still have AC in this car. I still have virtually full interior. Some of these comforts, I don't know if I'm willing to give up because, again, in Florida, like being on track without AC, it sucks. So that's the plan for this car. Shave some weight, more power. I'd like to aim for about 700, 800 horsepower. And I would say maybe bump the safety in this car as well, since it does not have a cage. So I plan to make a series on that build process to document it so you guys can see it. I know many of you follow me because you have Camaros and you've requested me to kind of make changes. So I'm gonna do that for you and do a better job at documenting the process. So if you're here and you're new to the channel, I would encourage you to stick around, subscribe. That way you can keep up with the changes to these cars. All right, so now what we're here for in this video, the Z06 Corvette. This is an interesting one. This started its life as a 2004 commemorative edition Z06 Corvette. I called it the grandma getter because this thing was, this thing was so old school. Like, it looked like a grandpa or a great grandpa would have purchased this as a collector's item and then never driven it. I got this as a really good deal from my buddy Black Label Racing. I'll put his Instagram in the video here. But he had purchased this car because I talked him into getting into drifting, and he bought it. He gave me a budget to build it. We did just a pretty modest angle kit. I think it was just modified knuckles, to be honest. We did a wrap, and we did wheels, and we did seats. And with these cars, the reason I like American Muscle so much is they've already got a great, mechanically at least, they've already got a great platform. It comes with an LS engine, which is a tried and true platform. It's going to come with a T56 or a TR6060, which again is a beefy transmission. He bought a C6 and then he kind of showed up one day and he's like, hey, let's do this one, but a little bit better. So we chose a different angle kit for it. We chose kind of some better products, but then we had the C5 and he was like, hey, sell it for me. And I kind of tried to sell it, but I didn't really put in effort because I was still working on a C6. So one day he told me, he's like, hey, instead of me paying you for the labor for the C6, just buy me out of the Corvette. And I think I ended up getting this car, y'all, for like I don't know, something crazy, like 6 grand. Because I think he had bought the car for, pretty cheap, let's say 10 grand. And then he gave me some money to put into it. And he basically was selling it to me for the selling price. I think he wanted 10 grand. And he said, hey, subtract the labor cost that it's going to cost to build the C6 and then just buy me out of this car. So I jumped on the opportunity to do that. And I started hacking this car up immediately. The internet lost their mind because, again, this was a commemorative edition, like one of 1,000 or something. But this car has been good to me. It's caged. It's still the factory LS6, believe it or not, with like 230,000 miles. It's been rebuilt. It makes like 450 horsepower naturally aspirated. But to take this to the next level, first thing we're going to do is address the angle kit. This has a mild Mantis angle kit on it from FDF. It's a great kit, but it's not top tier, right? And in the drifting community, one of the names that is most well known is Wisefab. So I went ahead and ordered that, and that's what we're gonna do on this car. In this video, I'm gonna show you the cost. I'm gonna show you the steps that it takes to upgrade the angle kit on this Corvette, just in case you're in the market for upgrading yours. All right, so first thing we gotta do is move the cars around. I gotta move the truck first, actually. I wanna get the Camaro out, and then I wanna put the Corvette in the middle so I have room to work on stuff, because I don't have a lift. I'm doing all of this just like you guys probably would on some jack stands. So let's go ahead and get things moved. This truck is so sweet. I'll do a build breakdown on this eventually. This is my favorite truck. Oh, baby. It's a little much for a tow rig, but this thing is sweet. All right, we got the truck moved, so let's go ahead and get the Camaro out of the way. Have not even started this car in so long. This is my baby though. Absolutely love this car. All right, let's see how she does. She is a spicy girl. Can't wait to throw more power at this car. Don't suck. All right, car is in, and then here is what's going down. This is Wisefab's Pro Kit. So it comes with knuckles that will replace the factory knuckles. Comes with LCAs, which has double adjusters, which means you can adjust it while it's on the car, which is really cool. And then it's got the upper control arms. Also comes with tie rods, and it looks like tie rod extenders. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get this car up in the air so I can show you what the current kit is. I'll also probably sell this kit. I was thinking about keeping it for a backup, but don't think I'm gonna do that. We're installing this. We're also upgrading the suspension. It's got BC Racing coilovers on it. We are upgrading to the Silver's Neomax. So this is gonna be a slightly better design. Now, BC Racing did upgrade their top mount and their lower mount, so they don't have as many issues with the Corvette platform. But just to be on the safe side, I'm gonna go ahead and throw new suspension on. Again, I was thinking about keeping that for backup, but who knows, maybe I'll sell it. So let's go ahead and get this up in the air. All right, so this is the kit we have on right now. As you can see, it's just FDF lower control arms, BC Racing's new upgraded suspension, so they don't have the little rubber insert down here anymore. And the top hat is a little better design as well. But ultimately, you'll notice this is a factory piece here. This is a factory piece here. So it's a mild Mantis kit, which means that there's a bracket which connects, you kind of cut off part of the factory knuckle, and it bolts onto the factory knuckle, which changes the pickup point. It does give you a good amount of angle. Let me see if I can turn this real quick. So that's the angle we get right now. It's pretty decent. Honestly, it's pretty good. I've enjoyed this kit. I've had a couple of kits on this car. First, I started with modified knuckles. It was a factory knuckle where they kind of just milled down the tie rod pickup point. Then I had the mini Mantis with factory LCA. Then I had the mild Mantis. I was actually the first one to run the mild Mantis kit for Josiah over at FDF. And then I paired it with the lower control arm. That probably gave me another 5 to 10 degrees of angle. And the kit's been pretty good. But like I said, this should be a far better kit. This is Wisefab's Pro Kit. All right, first thing you're gonna do is take off your brake caliper. I like to turn the wheels so that way I can get some more room here and use the Ugga Dugga. Otherwise, you could use hand tools, but I'm gonna go ahead and turn the steering wheel now. All right, now you can take the rotor off. It's gonna give you a lot more room. All right, for me, the next thing I'm gonna do is just take this tie rod off of the knuckle because I wanna move this and try to take off the lower control arm, the upper control arm, and the knuckle all at once rather than disassembling everything on the car. There we go. All right, so with this out of the way, I should, in theory, be able to just take the lower control arm bolts off, the upper control arm bolts off, and it just literally entirely come off. All right, we just gotta take these lower control arm bolts out, and she should come right out. There we go, boys. She's out. All right, so with these inner boots, they got an interesting clamp. To get it off, you want to take a flathead screwdriver, find the little nub in there, kind of just hammer it loose. There we go, that felt like it came off. All right, now I should be able to take this off. What I could have done is turn this out to give myself more space, but for now, just to get this off. Yeah. So I've got the wheel centered right now, but I'm gonna turn this out just to give myself a little bit more space to take this off. But first, let me go ahead and pop this white plastic. This is a new rack. Some of the racks won't have this little plastic dust shield on it, depending on the rack that you have. Since mine has it, I gotta remove it. Perfect. I'm using a pipe wrench, but if you have a wrench big enough, you don't have to use a pipe wrench. Maximum effort. There we go. Perfect. All right, I got everything taken apart, so now we're gonna go ahead and reassemble. First thing I'm gonna do is install this little tie rod extender on the inner tie rod. It doesn't give you any torque specs. From what I've seen online, the inner tie rod, you want around 50 foot-pounds. So I'm gonna get it started with the miniature Ugga Dugga, and then we'll go ahead and torque her to 50 foot-pounds. There we go. All right, now we're gonna install the Wisefab lower control arm. All right, now we got the upper control arm installed. All right, now we install the upper arm. I'm sorry, the knuckle into the upper arm. All right, about to put the wheel bearing back in. I've got the coilovers connected, lower control arm connected, upper control arm connected, and the tie rod connected. This is, believe it or not, pretty close to what the angle is gonna be, which is pretty nuts. I don't know why everything looks so blue, but yeah, it's gonna be pretty spicy, it would appear. All right, we got the wheel bearing installed again. Just gonna put the brake rotor on and then the brake caliper, and then this side is done. Switch over to the other side. All right, everything is back on. It is looking sick. All right, so a couple points about brake line. I'm not using any extended brake lines, but I did kind of custom rig the hardline bracket. It would have been right here. You do need to cut that, otherwise your wheel is definitely gonna be hitting it. I'm gonna spray some Steel It over this, but just for now, this is what I came up with. And then I used the factory little L for the brake line, flipped it upside down, took the clip off so it can freely go in and out, and she's fine. All right, another thing, just so you're aware of it, you do have to cut, basically this goes all the way down. You'll notice I cut this very smooth. You gotta do that on both sides. This is a good example. You can see how the inner fender well goes all the way in. I had to cut it all the way down to make room for the wheel. I'm running an 18x9 wheel, but I might need to go to like an 18x8 or something because this is pretty wild. Let's do a little turn lock to lock. That's to the right. That's to the left. Pretty spicy. Pretty spicy. All right, kit is on, and holy guacamole, the track stance is nuts. This is an 18x9 wheel. There's probably 3 inches of poke, so I'm gonna go down to an 18x8. Probably also gonna do over fenders, like 55 millimeter over fenders. But let's drive it and let's see how she looks. Still got to get in alignment, kind of just eyeballed it, but let's take a look. All right, she's installed. Holy guacamole, this is a crazy amount of angle. That's not even full lock, believe it or not. This makes 0 sense at all. Now this is the neutral Ackerman, so 0 Ackerman, but honestly, it seems like the neutral Ackerman actually has a little bit of negative. Basically, Ackerman is the difference between the front wheel and the rear wheel. If you look at the front wheel, or the leading wheel, I should say, look at that angle. I'm standing kind of in the middle of the hub. And now let's go to this side. In my opinion, the trailing wheel has more angle than the lead wheel, which for me personally, I like the lead wheel to have a little more angle. So I think I'm gonna mess with the Ackerman, but overall, this kit looks nuts. In the next video, I'm gonna get it aligned and do a little bit of testing. But this is step 1 to beefing up the C5 Z06 Corvette.